The kick came fast. One moment Marcus Hayes was apologizing for the sauce splattered across her crimson dress. The next her heel drove into his stomach and he hit the floor hard. The diner went silent. She stood over him, her face twisted with disgust, demanding he be fired on the spot. He said nothing. He had a 7-year-old daughter at home. He needed this job. But in the corner booth, someone had already seen enough. A man folded his napkin, stood, and walked out without a word. She never noticed him. She never looked back. Marcus had taught his daughter that the world had good people and bad people. He'd never told her what happened when the bad ones had money. 6 hours earlier, the alarm had gone off at 5:15. Marcus opened his eyes in the dark and listened to the silence of the apartment. No sound from Iris's room yet. Good. Let her sleep another hour. He swung his legs out of bed and felt the cold air bite at his skin. The heater had been acting up for 3 days now. The landlord hadn't returned his calls. He walked to the kitchen and turned on the light. The bulb flickered twice before steadying. The apartment was small, 2 bedrooms on the 3rd floor of a building in 3rd Ward that should have been condemned years ago. The walls were thin enough that he could hear Mrs. Chen coughing next door. The carpet was stained in places he'd given up trying to clean. But the rent was $790 a month, and that was all that mattered. He opened the cabinet and pulled out the oatmeal. Plain, unflavored, the kind that came in the big cylinder. He measured out 2 cups and added water, then set it on the stove. While it cooked, he sliced a banana and divided it between 2 bowls. The banana was starting to brown on one side. He cut around the soft spots. The tip jar sat on the counter next to the microwave. He dumped it out last night and counted. $127. Rent was due in 4 days. He was short $340. Mrs. Chen charged $40 a week to watch Iris after school. Groceries ran about $60 a week if he was careful. Utilities were $140 and due in 6 days. He did the math in his head while he stirred the oatmeal. It didn't add up. It never did. His phone buzzed on the counter. He picked it up and saw a text from Phil, his manager at the diner. "Need you in by 6 if you can." Jimmy called out sick. Marcus typed back, "Be there." He poured the oatmeal into the bowls and added the banana slices. Iris appeared in the doorway, her dark hair sticking up in all directions. She was wearing the pajamas with the birds on them, the ones her mother had bought her 3 Christmases ago. They were getting too small now. The cuffs stopped above her ankles. "Morning, baby bird." She rubbed her eyes and walked to the table. "Morning, Daddy." He set the bowl in front of her, and she picked up her spoon without complaint. She never complained. That was the part that broke his heart. 7 years old, and she already understood that complaining didn't change anything. "You have your homework ready for today?" She nodded, chewing. "Ms. Patterson said we're doing presentations. I drew a picture. Can I see it?" She got up and ran to her room, came back with a piece of construction paper. On it, she'd drawn a house with a tree next to it and a bird flying overhead. 2 stick figures stood in front of the house, one tall and one small. She'd labeled them in careful letters. "Me and Daddy. It's beautiful." "Ms. Patterson said we need to talk about our families. I'm going to say my daddy works hard and takes care of me." He felt something tighten in his chest. "That's perfect, sweetheart." They ate in silence. When they were done, he washed the dishes while she got dressed. At 6:30, he walked her next door to Mrs. Chen's apartment. The old woman answered in her bathrobe, her gray hair pulled back in a bun. "Good morning, Marcus." "Morning, Mrs. Chen. I've got the early shift today. Phil needs me in by 6. No problem." "Iris and I will have a good day, won't we?" Iris hugged his leg and he crouched down to her level. "I'll be home by 4. Be good for Mrs. Chen." "I will." He kissed her forehead and left. The guilt followed him down the stairs and out to his car. It always did on the mornings when he had to leave early. She never cried anymore. That somehow made it worse. The drive to Bluebird Diner took 20 minutes. The sun was just starting to come up, turning the sky from black to deep blue. Houston's skyline rose in the distance, glass towers catching the first light. Marcus had lived here his whole life. Born at Ben Taub Hospital, grew up in Acres Homes, graduated from Booker T. Washington High School, joined the police academy at 22, made detective at 28. That was another life now. He pulled into the parking lot behind the diner at 5:55. The neon sign out front flickered in the dim light. Bluebird Diner, open 24 hours. The blue paint on the exterior was faded and peeling. The windows were streaked with grease. Inside, the booths had cracked vinyl seats and the tables wobbled. But the food was cheap and the coffee was hot, and people came because they had to, not because they wanted to. Phil was already there, standing behind the counter with his arms crossed. He was 52, balding, with a gut that hung over his belt. His wife had died 2 years ago, and his kids didn't call anymore. Marcus had never asked why. Some things you didn't need to know. Thanks for coming in early. No problem. Jimmy's got the flu or something. Says he'll be out all week. I can cover his shifts. Phil nodded. I'll make it worth your while. Extra hour pay for anything over 40. Marcus hung his jacket in the back room and tied on his apron. The morning shift was always slow. A few truckers, construction workers grabbing breakfast before the job sites opened, the occasional insomniac who'd been up all night. He knew most of them by name. Frank always ordered black coffee with extra cream on the side. Mrs. Rodriguez wanted egg whites, wheat toast, grapefruit juice. Tommy from the construction crew just wanted whatever was hot and fast. The trick to being a good waiter was invisibility. You had to be present when needed and gone when not. Marcus had learned that in his first week. The people who came to Bluebird Diner didn't want conversation. They wanted their food, their coffee, their check. He gave them that and nothing more. By 11:30, the lunch rush started building. The booths filled up with office workers from the buildings on Westheimer. The noise level rose. Orders came faster. Marcus moved between tables with the efficiency of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. Refill the water before they ask. Clear the plates as soon as they're done. Smile when necessary. Stay invisible when not. He was refilling coffee for a table of 4 when Phil came up beside him. That girl in booth 7. Be extra careful with her. Marcus glanced over. A young woman sat alone near the window. Mid-20s, blonde highlights and dark hair, wearing a red dress that looked like it cost more than Marcus made in 6 months. She had a designer purse on the seat next to her, and her eyes were locked on her phone. Should I worry? Phil's voice dropped. I think I know who she is. Just don't give her a reason to complain. Marcus felt his old instincts kick in, the ones from his detective days. The way Phil's shoulders were tense. The way he kept glancing at the woman. Something was wrong. Who is she? Just be careful. Marcus topped off the coffee at table 4 and walked back to the counter. Through the window to the kitchen, he could see Ray, the cook, flipping burgers on the flat top. Ray was 63 and had worked at the diner for 15 years. He told Marcus once that he'd never leave because where else would an ex-con with arthritis find work? Phil appeared beside him again. I'm serious, Marcus. That girl, I've seen her before. On the news or something. Her family's got money and lawyers. Marcus looked at the woman again. She was scrolling through Instagram, her manicured nails tapping the screen. She hadn't looked up since she'd sat down. I'll be professional, like always. Phil nodded but didn't look convinced. Marcus grabbed a glass and filled it with filtered water. He checked it for smudges, wiped the rim with a clean towel, and walked to booth 7. The woman didn't acknowledge him as he approached. Good afternoon, ma'am. Can I get you something to drink? She kept scrolling. Her voice came out flat, bored. Sparkling water, San Pellegrino if you have it. Make sure the glass is clean. We have regular water, ma'am. The glass is clean. She glanced up for the first time. Her eyes swept over him from shoes to face, a quick assessment that found him wanting. Fine. Whatever. He set the water down carefully. Are you ready to order? She sighed like his presence was an inconvenience. Grilled salmon salad, dressing on the side, lemon wedge. If the salmon's dry, I'm sending it back. Marcus wrote it down and walked back to the kitchen. He clipped the ticket to the board and moved on to the next table. He didn't think about her again until the food was ready. The plate looked perfect. The salmon was grilled evenly, the greens were crisp, the dressing sat in a small cup on the side. Marcus picked up the tray and carried it toward booth 7. The woman was on her phone again, but this time she'd propped it against the sugar dispenser. The screen was facing out. She was live streaming. He approached carefully, holding the tray with both hands. Your salmon salad, ma'am. She glanced up and this time her eyes stayed on him. There was something cold in her expression, something calculating. Marcus had seen that look before, on suspects who thought they were smarter than everyone else. He started to set the plate down. As he did, She waved her hand in the air, gesturing at something on her phone screen. The motion was sudden and careless. Her wrist caught the edge of the tray. The small cup of dressing tipped. Marcus tried to pull back, but it was already too late. The red vinaigrette splashed across the table, across the edge of her dress, across her lap. The liquid spread in dark streaks across the crimson fabric. She screamed. The sound cut through the noise of the diner like a knife. Every head turned. Marcus froze, the tray still in his hands. The sauce dripped from the edge of the table onto the floor. "What the hell is wrong with you?" Her voice was sharp, furious. She stood up, knocking her chair back. She looked down at the stain, then up at him, her face twisted with rage. "I'm so sorry, ma'am." Marcus set the tray down and reached for a napkin. "It was an accident. I'll clean it up. I'll pay for the dry cleaning. You'll what?" She snatched the napkin out of his hand and threw it on the table. "Do you have any idea how much this dress costs? Do you?" Marcus opened his mouth, but no words came out. He could feel every pair of eyes in the diner on him, and his hands were shaking. "I'm really sorry." His voice was quieter now, almost pleading. "It was an accident. I'll do whatever I can to fix it." She stepped closer to him. Her heels made her taller. She looked down at him like he was something she'd scraped off her shoe. "You're pathetic." Then she kicked him. The heel of her shoe drove into his stomach with enough force to knock the air out of his lungs. He staggered backward, his hand clutching his side, and then his legs gave out. He hit the floor hard. The impact rattled through his bones. He tried to breathe, but his chest felt tight. The world tilted for a moment. The diner was completely silent. Marcus looked up. She was standing over him, her arms crossed, her face twisted with disgust. She didn't look sorry. She didn't look concerned. She looked satisfied. "Get him out of here." She wasn't speaking to Marcus. She was speaking to Phil. The manager appeared from behind the counter. His face had gone pale. "Ma'am, I'm sure we can. I want him fired." Her voice was cold and clear. "Right now. Or I'm calling my lawyer, and this place will be shut down by the end of the week." Phil swallowed. "Ma'am, please, let's talk about this." "There's nothing to talk about." She picked up her purse and slung it over her shoulder. "Either he's gone, or I make sure everyone knows what kind of trash you hire here." Marcus pushed himself up onto his knees. His ribs ached. His breath came in short, shallow gasps. "Phil, I'm sorry. I'll apologize. I'll pay for the dress. Just don't." "Shut up." The woman didn't even look at him when she said it. Phil stared at Marcus for a long moment. Then he looked at the woman. Then he looked at the floor. "Marcus, go home." Marcus's stomach dropped. "Phil, please. I need this job. Go home." Phil's voice was firmer now. "We'll talk later." The woman smiled. It was a small, satisfied smile. She turned and walked toward the door. Her heels clicked against the floor. The door swung shut behind her. Marcus stayed on the floor for a few more seconds. Then he got to his feet. His hands were still shaking. His side throbbed. He looked around the diner. A few people were staring. Most had gone back to their meals. No one said anything. He walked to the back room, took off his apron, and left through the rear exit. The air outside was cold. He stood in the alley behind the diner and pressed his back against the brick wall. His breath came out in clouds. He closed his eyes and tried to think. He had $43 in his wallet. Rent was $450. Iris needed new shoes. The heater in their apartment had stopped working 2 days ago. He didn't know what he was going to do. What he didn't know was that someone had been watching. The man had been sitting in the corner booth when it happened. He'd seen the woman wave her hand. He'd seen the sauce spill. He'd seen the kick. He'd watched Marcus fall. And when the woman left, he'd folded his napkin, placed a $20 bill on the table, and walked out. He stood on the sidewalk now, his hands in the pockets of his coat. He watched the woman climb into a black Maserati and drive away. Then he looked back at the diner. He pulled out his phone and made a call. "Yeah, it's me. I need you to run a name for me." He gave the name. He gave the license plate number. Then he hung up and walked to his car. Marcus didn't see him. Marcus didn't see anything. He just stood in the alley with his back against the wall, trying not to think about how he was going to explain this to his daughter. Marcus didn't go home right away. He sat in his car in the parking lot behind the diner for 20 minutes, staring at the steering wheel. His ribs still hurt. His hands still shook. He kept replaying the moment in his head. The kick, the floor, the way Phil had looked at him, the way everyone had looked at him. He thought about calling someone, but there was no one to call. His parents were gone. He had no siblings. The friends from before had disappeared when his life fell apart. There was only Iris, and he couldn't tell her what had happened, not yet. Finally, he started the car and drove home. The apartment building looked worse in the daylight. The paint was peeling. The front steps were cracked. The grass in the small yard out front was brown and patchy. He climbed the 3 flights of stairs slowly, each step sending a fresh jolt through his ribs. Iris was waiting for him when he walked in. She was sitting on the couch with a coloring book, her legs tucked under her. She looked up when the door opened. "You're home early." Marcus forced a smile. "Yeah, slow day." She watched him for a moment, her crayon hovering over the page. She was too smart for her age. She always knew when something was wrong. "Are you okay, Dad?" "I'm fine, sweetheart." She didn't look convinced, but she went back to coloring. Marcus walked into the kitchen and poured himself a glass of water. His hand was still shaking. He set the glass down and leaned against the counter. He closed his eyes and tried to breathe. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out and saw 4 missed calls. 3 from Phil, 1 from an unknown number. There was also a notification from Facebook. Someone had tagged him in a post. He opened the app and his stomach dropped. The post was from her, Victoria Ashford. That was her name. He hadn't known it before. Now it was everywhere. The post had a picture of her dress stained with sauce. The caption read, "This man assaulted me today at Bluebird Diner on Westheimer. He put his hands on me, and when I told him to stop, he became aggressive. He threw food at me, then got physical when I defended myself. Women are not safe anywhere. Please share this so others know to avoid this place." The post had been shared 300 times. Marcus scrolled through the comments and felt sick. He should be arrested. What a creep. "I hope he loses his job. Someone find out where he lives." That last one made him close the app. He turned off his phone and set it on the counter. His whole body was shaking now. Iris appeared in the doorway. "Daddy, can we have mac and cheese for dinner?" He looked at his daughter. 7 years old, dark hair like his, quiet way of looking at the world like her mother. She was the only good thing he had left. "Sure, baby bird, mac and cheese." She smiled and went back to the couch. Marcus opened the cabinet and pulled out the box. His hands were steadier now. He could do this. He could make dinner for his daughter. He could pretend everything was fine. He'd gotten good at pretending. The eviction notice came 2 days later. It was taped to the door when he got back from dropping Iris off at school. He pulled it down and read it twice. The landlord was giving him 30 days to pay the overdue rent or vacate the apartment. The total owed was $920. Marcus had $63 in his bank account. He crumpled the paper and threw it on the floor. Then he picked it up and smoothed it out. Iris couldn't see it. She couldn't know. He started looking for work that afternoon. He filled out applications at 3 other diners, a grocery store, and a gas station. None of them called back. By the end of the week, he knew why. Victoria's post had spread. His name was attached to it. No one wanted to hire him. He tried calling Phil again. Phil didn't answer. He tried calling the few people he still had numbers for from his days on the force. No one picked up. He was alone. On the 4th day after the incident, his phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Marcus Hayes?" He stared at the screen. He didn't recognize the number. He almost didn't reply. Then he typed back, "Who is this?" The response came immediately. "A friend. Meet me tomorrow. 10 a.m., Buffalo Bayou Park, Shepherd entrance. Come alone." Marcus read the message 3 times. It could have been anything. A scam, a threat, a mistake, but he had nothing left to lose. "Who are you?" The reply took longer this time. Someone who saw what really happened at Bluebird. Marcus's pulse spiked. "What do you want? To help. But not over text. Tomorrow 10 a.m. Come alone." Marcus typed, "Why should I trust you?" The final message came through and made his blood run cold. Because in 48 hours, Victoria Ashford is going to post again. And this time she'll say, "You followed her home." You'll have police at your door, and you'll lose Iris. Marcus stared at the phone. How did this person know Iris's name? How did they know Victoria's plans? His detective instincts were screaming at him. This was either law enforcement or someone very dangerous. He looked over at Iris coloring at the kitchen table. She was humming softly to herself, completely oblivious to the fact that their world was falling apart. He typed back, "I'll be there." That night, he sat on the floor of his apartment with his back against the couch. Iris was asleep in the bedroom. The eviction notice was on the table in front of him. He stared at it until the words stopped making sense. He thought about Sarah, about the night she died, about the choice he'd made that had cost her everything. He'd been a detective then. He'd been investigating a human trafficking ring with his partner, Ryan Chen. They'd been close to breaking the case. Marcus was supposed to meet an informant that night. But Sarah had called. Her car had broken down, and she needed a ride home from work. Marcus had sent Ryan to meet the informant alone. He'd gone to pick up Sarah. The drunk driver had T-boned them at the intersection of Fannin and Wheeler. The impact had crushed the passenger side. Sarah had died before the ambulance arrived. Marcus had walked away with bruises and a guilt that would never heal. He'd quit the force 2 months later. Ryan had understood, but Marcus had seen the disappointment in his old partner's eyes. They hadn't spoken in 4 years. Marcus pulled out his old detective notebook from the closet. He'd kept it even though he had no reason to. Habits died hard. He opened it to a blank page and started writing. Victoria Ashford, incident at Bluebird Diner. Her hand hit the tray. Not my fault. She kicked me. Witnesses present. Phil saw everything. Customers saw everything. But none of that mattered. She had money. She had lawyers. She had the ability to control the narrative. And Marcus had nothing. Except maybe whoever sent that text. He closed the notebook and went to bed. He didn't sleep. The next morning, he dropped Iris at Mrs. Chen's. He told her he had a job interview. Mrs. Chen smiled and said that was wonderful. She didn't ask why. His hands were shaking. He drove to Buffalo Bayou Park and arrived at 9:50. The park was quiet this time of day. A few joggers on the trails, some people walking dogs. He parked near the Shepherd entrance and scanned the area with practiced eyes. There was a man sitting on a bench about 150 yards away. Another man standing by a tree, talking on his phone. And in the parking lot, a Crown Victoria with government plates. Marcus's breath caught. Law enforcement. This was definitely law enforcement. At exactly 10 o'clock, a man approached from the trail. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with short dark hair and a clean-shaven face. He wore a dark jacket and jeans. As he got closer, Marcus's world tilted. Ryan? Ryan Chen stopped 10 feet away. His hands were visible, relaxed at his sides, non-threatening. After 4 years of silence, here he was. Hello, Marcus. Marcus felt emotions he'd buried for years trying to surface. Relief, anger, confusion, hope. You sent the text? Ryan nodded. I've been watching Victoria Ashford for 3 months. I've documented 4 other victims. But I never had video. I never had witnesses. He paused and something shifted in his expression. I never had you. Marcus's throat was tight. Why didn't you help me at the diner? Because helping you then would have blown 3 months of investigation. Ryan took a step closer. But helping you now? Now I can end her. How? Ryan pulled a folder from his jacket and handed it over. Marcus opened it. Inside were printed screenshots, social media posts, police reports, incident logs. Her name is Victoria Ashford. Ryan's voice was steady, professional. She's been involved in at least 4 similar incidents over the past 2 years. Assault, harassment, false accusations. She's gotten away with it every time because her family has money, lawyers, connections. Marcus flipped through the pages. Each one showed a different victim. Maria Santos, a housekeeper who'd been accused of stealing a $15,000 bracelet. Fired, lost her work visa, deported back to El Salvador. James Porter, a delivery driver accused of inappropriate touching. Lost his job, blacklisted in the industry. Kevin Tran, a valet accused of keying Victoria's car. Paid an $8,000 settlement, still in debt from legal fees. Deshaun Williams, a coffee shop barista accused of spitting in her drink. Paid $50,000 to settle, now had PTSD, and couldn't work customer service. She does this. Ryan's voice cut through Marcus's thoughts. She provokes people. She creates situations. Then she plays the victim. And she gets away with it because no one can fight back. Marcus closed the folder. His hands were shaking again. Why are you telling me this? Ryan looked him straight in the eye. Because this time she picked the wrong person. And this time I have proof. Marcus didn't know what to say. 4 years of silence and now this. His old partner, his old life, his old self all standing in front of him in a park on a Tuesday morning. I've been building a case. Ryan's voice softened slightly. But I need your help. I need you to file a formal complaint. I need you to go on record. Marcus shook his head. I can't. I've got a daughter. I've got no money. If I go after her, she'll destroy me. Ryan's expression didn't change. She's already destroying you. The only difference is whether you fight back or not. Marcus looked down at the folder in his lap. 4 other victims, 4 lives ruined, and Victoria Ashford was still out there, still doing it, because no one had stopped her. What if it doesn't work? Ryan was quiet for a moment. Then at least you tried. Marcus sat there for a long time. The park was peaceful. Birds were singing. The sun was warm on his face. Everything looked normal. Everything felt wrong. He thought about Iris, about the way she'd hugged him that morning and told him good luck with his interview, about the way she never complained when they had oatmeal for breakfast 3 days in a row, about the way she'd drawn that picture of the 2 of them standing in front of their house with a bird flying overhead. For 3 years, he'd been a ghost, an invisible waiter, a quiet single dad. He'd buried Detective Hayes under Mr. Hayes. He'd told himself it was safer that way, easier, less painful. But whoever sent that text was right. Victoria wasn't done with him. She was going to post again. She was going to say he'd followed her, and then he'd lose Iris. Not to death this time, but to the system. To CPS investigations, and custody hearings, and everything that came with being accused. He couldn't let that happen. Okay. Marcus's voice was quiet but steady. What do I need to do? Ryan reached into his jacket again and pulled out a business card. Come to the station tomorrow. Ask for me. We'll take your statement and we'll start building this case the right way. Marcus took the card. Ryan opened the door of his car and started to get in. Then he leaned back out. One more thing. She's not going to stop. She's going to keep coming after you. So be ready. Then he closed the door and drove away. Marcus sat in his car for another 10 minutes. Then he drove home. The apartment felt smaller than usual. The walls were closing in. He could hear Mrs. Chen's TV through the wall. He could smell someone cooking onions 3 floors down. Everything was too close, too real, too much. That night he told Iris they might have to move. She cried. He held her and promised her everything would be okay. He didn't know if it was true. Sometimes you didn't choose to fight because you were brave. You fought because you had nothing left to lose. The next day he went to the station. Ryan met him at the front desk. They walked to an interview room with gray walls and a metal table. Marcus told them everything. The sauce, the kick, the post, the threats. Ryan recorded it all. When it was over, Ryan walked him back to the lobby. We're going to get her. Marcus wanted to believe him, but he'd stopped believing in things a long time ago. 2 days later, Victoria posted again. This time it was a video. She was sitting in her car crying, makeup running down her face. She said Marcus had been harassing her, that he'd been following her, that she was scared for her life. The video was shared over 1,000 times within an hour. Marcus's landlord called him that afternoon and told him he had 24 hours to leave the apartment. Marcus packed everything they owned into 2 suitcases and 4 boxes. He and Iris moved into a motel on the edge of town. It cost $40 a night. He had enough money for 3 nights. On the 3rd night, there was a knock on the door. Marcus opened it. Ryan was standing there. We need to talk. Marcus let him in. Iris was asleep on the bed, curled up under the thin motel blanket. Ryan looked around the room. His expression was hard. She filed a restraining order. Against you. Marcus felt the world tilt. What? She's claiming you're stalking her. She's got photos, timestamps, locations. Marcus sat down on the edge of the bed. I haven't been anywhere near her, Ryan nodded. I know. The photos are staged. The timestamps don't match. But it's going to take time to prove that. Marcus put his head in his hands. I can't do this anymore. Ryan crouched down in front of him. Yes, you can, because tomorrow we're going to arrest her. Marcus looked up. What? Ryan stood. We've got enough. The video from the diner, the other victims who are willing to come forward, the fake restraining order. It's enough. Marcus stared at him. You're sure? Ryan nodded. I'm sure. Marcus didn't know what to say. He looked over at Iris, still asleep. Her small body rose and fell with each breath. What happens now? Ryan walked to the door. Now you get some rest. And tomorrow we end this. He left. Marcus sat on the edge of the bed and watched his daughter sleep. For the first time in weeks, he let himself hope. The arrest would happen at noon the next day. Ryan had told him to stay away, to let the law do what it was supposed to do, so Marcus sat in the motel room with Iris, watching cartoons on the small television, waiting for his phone to ring. It rang at 12:30. It's done, Ryan's voice was steady. She's in county lockup. She'll be arraigned tomorrow. Salt, filing a false report. Harassment. We've got her on all of it. Marcus closed his eyes. Something in his chest that had been wound tight for weeks finally released. Thank you. Ryan was silent for a moment. You don't have to thank me. I should have stepped in sooner. Marcus didn't know what to say to that. The line went dead. He set the phone down and looked at Iris. She glanced over at him from the TV. Is everything okay, Dad? Marcus smiled. It was the first real smile he'd managed in days. Yeah, sweetheart. Everything's okay. But even as he said it, he knew it wasn't over. Not yet. Victoria Ashford had money and lawyers and a father who would do anything to protect her. The arrest was just the beginning, and Marcus Hayes, former detective turned waiter, turned victim, turned fighter, was about to learn that sometimes the hardest battles weren't fought in alleys or diners. They were fought in courtrooms with rules and procedures and systems designed to protect people with resources. He looked at Iris again. She'd gone back to watching her cartoon, completely trusting that her father had everything under control. He couldn't let her down. Not again, not after Sarah. For Iris, he'd walk into any trap, even one he couldn't see yet. And we protect our own. Ryan's final words echoed in his head. Marcus pulled out his old detective notebook and opened to a fresh page. He started writing down everything he could remember. Every detail, every witness, every moment. Because if this was going to be a fight, he needed to be ready. Outside the motel room, Houston kept moving. Cars drove past. People went to work. The sun crossed the sky. Life continued like nothing had changed. But for Marcus Hayes, everything had changed. The ghost was done hiding, the broken man was done pretending, and the father was done running. Whatever came next, he'd face it standing up. The arraignment was the next morning. Marcus didn't attend. Ryan told him it was better that way. Less attention, less risk. But Ryan called afterward and told him everything. Victoria had walked into the courtroom in a pale blue dress, her hair pulled back, her face bare of makeup. She looked smaller than she had in the diner, younger, almost fragile. Her lawyer stood beside her, a man in an expensive suit who spoke in calm, measured tones. He argued that his client was a victim, that she'd been defending herself, that the accusations against her were exaggerated and motivated by revenge. The judge listened without expression. Then he set bail at $50,000. Victoria's family posted it within the hour. Ryan called Marcus again that night. She's out. Marcus felt his stomach drop. What? She posted bail, but she's on house arrest, ankle monitor. She's not going anywhere. Marcus sat on the edge of the motel bed. Iris was asleep again. The room smelled like stale cigarette smoke from previous occupants. The heater rattled but didn't work. What if she comes after me again? She won't. Ryan's voice was firm. If she violates the terms of her release, she goes straight back to jail. She's not that stupid. Marcus wasn't convinced. What about the trial? 3 months, maybe 4. But we've got everything we need. Surveillance footage from the diner, statements from the other victims, her own social media posts. She's done. Marcus wanted to feel relieved, but all he felt was tired. His body ached from sleeping on the cheap motel mattress. His ribs still hurt where Victoria had kicked him. His mind wouldn't stop running through scenarios where this all fell apart. Thanks, Ryan. The line went dead. Marcus lay down next to Iris and stared at the water-stained ceiling. Sleep didn't come for a long time. 2 weeks later, he got a call from Phil. The voice on the other end was hesitant, apologetic. Marcus, it's me. Marcus hadn't spoken to Phil since the day he was fired. He didn't know what to say now. What do you want? Phil sighed, and the sound carried years of regret. I heard what happened with her, with the arrest. Marcus didn't respond. He waited. I'm sorry. Phil's voice was thick. I should have stood up for you. I should have told the truth. Marcus stared out the window of the motel room. The parking lot was empty except for a few cars and a dumpster overflowing with trash. Yeah, you should have. Phil was silent for a long time. I want you to come back, if you're willing. I'll make you head of the day shift. Better pay, better hours. Marcus felt something twist in his chest. Anger, maybe, or disappointment, or just exhaustion. I don't think I can do that, Phil. I understand. But the offer's there if you change your mind. Marcus hung up without saying goodbye. He looked at Iris, coloring at the small table by the window. She'd drawn another bird. This one was flying toward the sun. Daddy, can we go home soon? Soon, baby bird. But home was gone. The apartment was already rented to someone else. All their belongings were in storage that Marcus couldn't afford to keep paying for. They were living day to day in a $40 a night motel with no plan beyond tomorrow. His phone buzzed again. This time it was Ryan. I've got something for you. Can you meet me? Where? My place. I'll text you the address. An hour later, Marcus pulled up in front of a small house in the Heights. It was a nice neighborhood, tree-lined streets, renovated bungalows. Ryan's house had a well-maintained yard and a fresh coat of paint. Marcus felt a pang of something he couldn't name. This was what stability looked like. Ryan opened the door before Marcus could knock. Come in. The interior was clean and organized. Hardwood floors, modern furniture, photos on the walls. Ryan led him to the kitchen and gestured to a chair. Coffee? Sure. Ryan poured 2 cups and sat down across from him. He pulled an envelope from his pocket and slid it across the table. What's this? Open it. Marcus opened the envelope. Inside was a job offer. Administrative position at the Houston Police Department. Scheduling, payroll, filing. Nothing glamorous, but it was steady, it was safe, and it paid more than the diner ever had. You serious? Ryan nodded. We need someone we can trust. And you've been out of the game long enough. No one's going to ask questions. Marcus stared at the paper. His throat was tight. I don't know what to say. Say yes. Marcus folded the letter carefully and put it in his pocket. Yes. Ryan smiled slightly. Good. You start Monday. He left feeling lighter than he had in weeks. Not happy exactly, but hopeful. Maybe things could stabilize. Maybe he could find a real apartment again. Maybe Iris could have a normal childhood. But that night, everything changed. Marcus was putting Iris to bed when his phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. He almost ignored it. Then he saw the preview. This is Rachel Kim. I worked for Lawrence Ashford's firm. Marcus's pulse jumped. He opened the message. I quit yesterday. After I saw what Victoria did to that waiter. I need to talk to you. Call me. There was a phone number. Marcus stepped outside the motel room and dialed. A woman answered on the second ring. Mr. Hayes, who is this? My name is Rachel Kim. I was a paralegal at Ashford and Associates for 3 years. I quit. After I saw that video from the diner. Marcus leaned against the railing outside his room. The night air was cold and damp. What do you want? To help. Rachel's voice was steady but strained. I've worked on cleanup for Victoria's incidents. There's a protocol. She causes a problem. We gather evidence against the victim, threaten lawsuits, force settlements. I've done it 4 times. Maria Santos, James Porter, Kevin Tran, Deshaun Williams. Marcus's breath caught. Why are you telling me this? Because she's getting worse. And because I have files. Copies of all the settlements, all the incidents, all the victims, including 2 more you don't know about. 2 more before Maria, 1 in 2021, 1 in 2020. Lawrence buried them completely. No paper trail, but I kept copies. Insurance, Rachel's voice dropped. In case the firm ever turned on me, I didn't expect to use them like this. What do you want from me? Nothing. I want to give them to you, to the detective investigating this case. But I need protection. Lawrence will destroy me when he finds out. Marcus called Ryan immediately, told him everything. Ryan set up a meeting for midnight in a parking garage downtown. Marcus met them there. Ryan was already waiting, standing next to his car. Emily Vasquez was with him, the investigative journalist from the Houston Chronicle that Ryan had mentioned before. She was in her 40s, sharp eyes, recording device in hand. Rachel Kim arrived 10 minutes later. She was in her 30s, Korean-American, dressed in business casual. She looked exhausted and scared. She handed Ryan a USB drive. Everything's here. 6 victims total, settlement amounts, communications between Lawrence and the victims, threats made, all of it. Ryan plugged the drive into his laptop and scrolled through the files. Emily looked over his shoulder. After 5 minutes, Emily spoke. "This is real. This is detailed. This is damning." Rachel's hands were shaking. "There's more. Lawrence keeps a separate account for settlements. He's paid out $480,000 in 4 years, all to protect Victoria." Ryan looked up. "That's evidence of a pattern and premeditation." Rachel's voice was barely a whisper. "He knows she's doing it. He budgets for it." Emily pulled out her notebook. "Why are you doing this? Why risk everything?" Rachel looked at Marcus. "Because I saw your daughter in one of Victoria's posts. Someone put your address online, and I thought, what if next time Victoria does this to someone who can't fight back? What if she escalates to something worse?" Marcus felt something shift in his chest. Rachel was risking her career, her reputation, her livelihood. For him, for Iris, for people she'd never met. Emily closed her notebook. "I'm running the story. Tomorrow, front page." The article dropped the next morning. Marcus saw it on his phone before he got out of bed. The headline was massive. "Pattern of Deception, How Victoria Ashford Weaponized Assault Claims." The subheading read, "6 victims, $480,000 in settlements, and a father's law firm covering it up." The article was comprehensive. Marcus's story with video evidence, James and Kevin's testimonies, Rachel's files and testimony, a timeline of 6 incidents, financial records of settlements, expert commentary on the impact of false accusations. By noon, it had been picked up by CNN, Fox, and MSNBC. Marcus's phone didn't stop ringing. Messages from former employers apologizing. A GoFundMe started by a stranger raised $15,000 in 6 hours. His landlord called to say the eviction was withdrawn. Phil called again, offering his job back. But Marcus felt hollow. Vindication didn't undo what Victoria had done, to him or to the others. The backlash was immediate. Social media erupted. Victoria's posts were flooded with negative comments. Hashtags trended. People who'd shared her original accusations now apologized publicly. But there was also anger from another direction. Feminist groups divided. Some condemned Victoria. Others defended her, saying this kind of scrutiny was why real victims didn't come forward. Marcus didn't care about any of it. He just wanted it to be over. At 2 p.m., Lawrence Ashford held a press conference. Marcus watched it on the news. The lawyer stood at a podium outside his office, silver-haired and commanding. "My daughter is the real victim here. She's been targeted by a smear campaign orchestrated by a disgraced ex-cop and a journalist with an agenda. We will file defamation lawsuits against all parties involved. The truth will come out in court." Lawrence refused to take questions and walked off. Within hours, cease and desist letters arrived. Defamation suits filed. $20 million each against Marcus, Ryan, Emily, and Rachel. Motions to suppress evidence. Requests for gag orders. Ryan called that evening. "They're coming at us hard." Marcus was back in the motel room. Iris was watching cartoons. Can they win? They can make it expensive and painful. But we've got the truth on our side. That doesn't always matter. Ryan was quiet for a moment. No, it doesn't always. The next morning, Victoria's social media went dark. All accounts deactivated or deleted. Emily did some digging and found out Victoria had checked into a wellness retreat in Sedona, Arizona. "She's running," Marcus told Ryan over the phone. "Or hiding until this blows over. With her father's money, she can wait it out. But without Victoria available, the criminal charges stalled. The DA's office said they couldn't proceed with prosecution if the defendant was unreachable. Ryan argued she was at Serenity Springs in Sedona, but the DA said they couldn't compel her to return without formally charging her, and they couldn't charge her without interviewing her first. It was a catch-22 designed by expensive lawyers. That evening, Marcus got visitors. James Porter and Kevin Tran showed up at his motel room. James was 28, tall, with the tired eyes of someone who'd been beaten down by the system. Kevin was 22, slight build, nervous energy. We saw the article. James's voice was steady. It helped me. I got my job back at FedEx. The manager apologized. Kevin nodded. The country club rehired me too. They paid my legal fees. Marcus let them in. Iris looked up from her coloring book but didn't say anything. I'm glad, but Victoria's in Arizona, hiding. Then we go to Arizona. Kevin's voice was firm. And do what? James leaned forward. Confront her. Get her to admit it on camera. Ryan's going to say that's witness tampering. What if we don't use it in court? James met his eyes. What if we release it publicly? Marcus thought about it. Victoria had controlled the narrative from the beginning. She'd used social media as a weapon. Maybe it was time to turn that weapon around. You're talking about flying to Sedona, finding her at a luxury resort, and confronting her in public. Yes. What if she calls security? What if we get arrested? Kevin shrugged. We're already being sued for $20 million. What's a little trespassing? Marcus almost smiled. He looked at Iris, who was watching them with wide eyes. Then he looked back at James and Kevin. Let me make some calls. That night, there was another knock on the door. Marcus opened it and found Deshaun Williams standing there. He was 25, black, with haunted eyes and a slight tremor in his hands. I saw the article. I saw you're going after her. Marcus recognized him from the photos Ryan had shown him. Come in. Deshaun stepped inside. His presence filled the small room with nervous energy. I thought you had an NDA. Marcus kept his voice low. I do. $50,000 settlement. I talk, I owe it back. So why are you here? Deshaun pulled out his phone. Because I recorded her. The day she accused me, I recorded the whole thing. He played the audio. It was from the coffee shop where he'd worked. Victoria's voice was clear. She was laughing, telling a friend to watch. Then she screamed about spit in her drink. But before that, she'd admitted it was a setup. My phone was on the counter. Deshaun's voice cracked. I was recording for TikTok. I got everything. But my lawyer told me to bury it. The settlement was worth more than the truth. You'll owe $50,000 if you give this to us. I'll owe my sanity if I don't. Deshaun's hands were shaking harder now. I can't sleep, I can't work, I have nightmares about customers complaining. That money's almost gone anyway. Spend it on therapy that doesn't work. Marcus took the phone. This is evidence of premeditation. I don't care about the NDA anymore. Take it. Stop her from doing this to someone else. Marcus called Ryan and Emily. They came to the motel within an hour. Ryan listened to the audio 3 times. This changes everything. If she's planning these incidents, it's not just assault. It's conspiracy. Fraud. Emily was already typing on her laptop. I'm adding this to the story. Follow-up piece drops tomorrow. Deshaun sat on the edge of the bed, his head in his hands. Am I doing the right thing? Marcus sat down next to him. Yeah, you are. The next day, the 4 of them bought plane tickets to Phoenix. Marcus, James, Kevin, and Deshaun. Ryan coordinated from Houston. Emily said she'd meet them in Arizona to cover whatever happened. Marcus said goodbye to Iris at Mrs. Chen's apartment. The old woman had agreed to watch her for 2 days. Daddy, where are you going? To talk to the mean lady, so she can't hurt anyone else. Iris hugged him tight. Be safe. Remember, birds fly. He thought about Sarah, about the promise he'd made at her funeral to protect their daughter, about all the ways he'd failed and all the ways he was trying to make it right. The plane took off at noon. Marcus sat by the window, watching Houston shrink beneath him. James was in the seat next to him. Kevin and Deshaun were a row back. You think this will work? James asked. I think we're about to find out. They landed in Phoenix 3 hours later. The Arizona heat hit them like a wall when they stepped outside. They rented 2 cars and drove north towards Sedona. The landscape changed from desert sprawl to red rocks and pine trees. Serenity Springs sat in the hills above town, a luxury resort disguised as a wellness retreat. Kevin went in first, posing as a potential guest. He came back 10 minutes later. She's here, by the pool, private cabana, 2 friends with her. They parked and walked in separately. The resort was beautiful. Infinity pool overlooking red rock formations, expensive lounge chairs, wealthy clientele and designer swimwear. Victoria was exactly where Kevin said she'd be, lying on a lounge chair in a white bikini, sunglasses on, cocktail in hand. Her two friends sat nearby, scrolling their phones. Marcus approached first. He walked straight to her cabana. "Hello, Victoria." She looked up. Behind the sunglasses, he saw her freeze. Then she recovered, sitting up straight. "You're stalking me now?" "Daddy was right. I'm a guest here. Public place, I can walk anywhere I want." Victoria turned to her friends. "Call security." Before they could, James stepped forward. "I'm James Porter. You got me fired from FedEx, remember?" Victoria's composure cracked slightly. "I don't know you." Kevin appeared on the other side. "Kevin Tran, River Oaks Country Club." "You said I keyed your car." Victoria stood up. "This is harassment." Then Deshawn stepped forward, and Marcus saw real fear flash across Victoria's face. "Deshawn Williams, coffee shop. You said I spit in your drink." They stood around her cabana, not threatening, just present. Other guests were watching now. Phones came out. Security was already walking toward them. "What's going on here?" The security guard was young, uncertain. "We're guests having a conversation in a public area." Marcus kept his voice calm. "They're harassing me." Victoria's voice rose. "I have restraining orders. You have nothing." Marcus cut her off. No restraining orders were ever filed. That was another lie. He turned to the growing crowd. "My name is Marcus Hayes. This woman falsely accused me of assault. She does this for fun. She's done it to all of us." James stepped forward. "My name is James Porter. She accused me of sexual harassment. I lost my job. I lost my reputation. I'm a single father." She didn't care. Kevin was next. "Kevin Tran. She accused me of property damage. I'm $12,000 in debt because of her lies. I had to drop out of college." Deshawn's voice shook, but he spoke clearly. "Deshawn Williams. She said I spit in her drink. I didn't. But she ruined my life anyway. I can't sleep. I can't work. I have panic attacks." Victoria looked around wildly. "You people are crazy. I'm the victim here." Marcus pulled out his phone. "Then explain this." He played the video from the diner. The sound was loud enough for nearby guests to hear. It showed Victoria's hand hitting the tray. It showed the kick. It showed Marcus falling. The crowd murmured. "Someone said that's her from the news. That video is edited." Victoria's voice was desperate now. Deshawn held up his phone. "What about this one?" He played the audio from the coffee shop. Victoria's voice, clear and unmistakable. Laughing, telling her friend to watch, then screaming about the spit. The crowd backed away from her. Resort guests were recording everything. Security looked uncertain. Victoria's face went through a series of calculations. Marcus could see it happening. She was cornered. Too many witnesses. Too much evidence. No way to lie her way out. "You don't know what it's like." Her voice cracked. "Everyone judges me. Everyone expects perfection. I needed control. I needed—" She stopped. Realized what she was saying, but it was too late. "You needed power." Marcus's voice was steady. "Over people who couldn't fight back." Victoria's mask shattered completely. "Angry tears now, not performance tears. People like you deserve it. Waiters, drivers, valets, you're all the same. You serve people like me, and you smile and you pretend, but I see how you judge us. I never judged you." Marcus felt nothing but exhaustion. "I just wanted to do my job and go home to my daughter." Victoria's breakdown was complete. "Your daughter? You think I care about your daughter?" "I don't care about any of you." Security stepped in. "Ma'am, we're going to have to ask you to leave. I'm a guest here." "Not anymore." The security guard was firm now. Victoria screamed. She threw her drink. She tried to hit Marcus, but security caught her arm. They escorted her off the property while she was still yelling about lawsuits and lawyers and her father. The four men stood by the pool after she was gone. Other guests approached them. A woman thanked them for speaking up. A man said his sister had been falsely accused and it destroyed her life. A college student asked if she could interview them for her journalism class. Emily Vasquez appeared with her camera crew. It's all over social media. 20 different videos. She confessed in front of 40 witnesses. Ryan called minutes later. The DA just called me. They're filing charges. Today. James looked at Marcus. Is it over? No, Marcus watched the sun reflect off the red rocks. But it started. They flew back to Houston that evening. Marcus picked up Iris from Mrs. Chen's and held her tighter than usual. Did you talk to the mean lady? Yeah, baby. We did. Is she going to stop being mean? I think so, but Marcus knew better. Victoria Ashford was arrested 36 hours after the Sedona confrontation. She was charged with 3 counts of assault, 6 counts of filing false police reports, 4 counts of criminal defamation, and 2 counts of witness intimidation. Bail was set at $150,000. Lawrence Ashford posted it immediately. Victoria was released with an ankle monitor and house arrest pending trial. The media circus began again. News crews camped outside the Ashford mansion. Lawrence made another statement about his daughter being persecuted. Victoria's lawyers filed motions to suppress the Sedona videos, claiming they were obtained through harassment. But the court of public opinion had already decided. 70% of people polled believed Victoria was guilty. The hashtag switched from supporting her to condemning her. Marcus tried to build some kind of normal life while waiting for trial. He started his job at the police department. It was quiet work, administrative, but it paid the bills. He found a small apartment in 3rd Ward, not far from where they'd lived before. Iris started therapy to deal with the trauma of the past few months. The GoFundMe kept growing. It reached $34,000. Marcus used some for legal fees and put the rest in a college fund for Iris. He went back to work at Bluebird Diner too, not because he had to, because he wanted to. Phil had meant his offer about being head of the day shift. Better pay, better hours. But more than that, Marcus realized he liked the work. He liked knowing the regulars. He liked the routine. He liked being useful. One day, Phil asked him, "You don't have to stay." Marcus was refilling the coffee station. "I know, but this is where I'm supposed to be. Not hiding, not running, choosing." The trial was set for 4 months away. In the meantime, Ryan got his badge back. The internal affairs investigation cleared him. He was promoted to sergeant and immediately started a task force to investigate wealthy perpetrators who weaponized the legal system. Rachel Kim found work at the DA's office. Jennifer Martinez, the assistant district attorney handling Victoria's case, hired her as a victims' rights advocate. James got his FedEx job back with a promotion. Kevin enrolled in law school at the University of Houston. Deshaun opened a coffee shop called Second Chances Cafe and hired people with troubled pasts. The pieces were falling into place. But Marcus knew the hardest part was still ahead. 4 weeks before trial, Marcus got a call from a woman he'd never met. Her name was Patricia Nguyen. She worked at a luxury hotel downtown. A guest had assaulted her, accused her of damaging luggage, threatened to get her fired. The guest was wealthy, had lawyers. Patricia was terrified. Marcus drove to the hotel immediately. He met Patricia in the back office. She was 28, Vietnamese American, crying so hard she could barely speak. "Where are you going? I'm coming." He arrived to find Patricia with her manager and a furious guest. The guest was a woman in her 30s, expensive clothes, entitled attitude. Different person, same pattern. "Ma'am, I'm Marcus Hayes." The woman barely looked at him. "I don't care who you are. That maid destroyed I'm the man Victoria Ashford assaulted. Maybe you've heard of her?" The woman's face went pale. Recognition. Fear. "You're going to apologize to Patricia. You're going to leave. And you're going to think very carefully before you do this again. Are you threatening me?" Ryan arrived then, still in uniform. "No, he's warning you. I'm Detective Chen, Houston PD, and we take false accusations very seriously now." The woman left without another word. Patricia thanked them both through tears. Marcus drove home feeling something he hadn't felt in months. Purpose. That night, Iris asked if the mean lady was going to jail. "I don't know yet, baby bird, but she can't hurt us anymore." Good. Iris went back to her drawing. She'd sketched 4 birds flying together. She labeled them in careful letters. Daddy, James, Kevin, Deshaun. Marcus put the drawing on the refrigerator and stood looking at it for a long time. 3 months ago, he'd been invisible. A ghost. Now he was part of something bigger. A movement. A message. The system could be beaten. The powerful could be held accountable. And sometimes the people society overlooked, waiters, drivers, valets, baristas, were the ones brave enough to fight back. He thought about Sarah, about the promise he'd made, about how far he'd come from that alley behind the diner where he'd sat with $43 and no hope. We flew, Sarah. We're flying. Outside, Houston's lights spread to the horizon. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. The trial was coming. Victoria's lawyers would attack from every angle. But tonight, Marcus Hayes stood in his small kitchen with his daughter's drawing on the refrigerator and felt something close to peace. Not victory, not yet, but something better. He felt like himself again, and that was enough to keep going. The trial began on a Tuesday morning in October. Marcus sat in the back row of the courtroom and watched Victoria Ashford walk in with her legal team. She wore a conservative navy dress, her hair pulled into a simple bun, minimal makeup. She looked like a college student, not a woman facing 15 criminal charges. Jury selection took 3 weeks. Lawrence Ashford's team tried to exclude anyone who'd worked in service industries. The prosecution fought to keep them. The final jury was 7 women and 5 men, ages ranging from 24 to 67. Juror number 4 was a single mother who worked 2 jobs. The prosecution loved her. Lawrence tried 3 times to strike her. The judge denied him every time. Opening statements started on a gray November morning. The courtroom was packed. Media filled the gallery. The victims sat together in the 3rd row. Marcus, James, Kevin, Deshawn. Behind them sat Rachel Kim, Emily Vasquez, and Ryan Chen in his dress uniform. Assistant District Attorney Jennifer Martinez stood and faced the jury. She was in her 40s, Hispanic, with the calm authority of someone who'd tried hundreds of cases. This case is about power. Victoria Ashford has money, connections, a famous father, but she wanted something more. Control. Control over people she saw as beneath her. And when they didn't submit, she weaponized our justice system against them. Martinez walked to the evidence table and picked up a folder. Over 4 years, she falsely accused 6 people of crimes they didn't commit. She ruined lives. She destroyed reputations. She did it because she could. Until now. She returned to her seat. Lawrence Ashford stood. He'd chosen to represent his own daughter, a decision that surprised no one. He was 62, distinguished, with silver hair and a voice that commanded attention. My daughter is a victim of our current climate, a climate where wealthy young women are automatically disbelieved, where men can band together and destroy a woman's reputation with edited videos and coordinated attacks. He gestured toward the victim's row. Victoria Ashford is not perfect. She's young, she's made mistakes. But she is not a criminal. She is a target, and if you convict her, you're telling every woman in America that if she's wealthy, she doesn't deserve justice. Marcus felt anger rise in his chest, but he kept his face neutral. Iris was at home with Mrs. Chen. He'd promised her he'd come back with good news. The prosecution called its first witness that afternoon. Marcus Hayes to the stand. He walked to the front of the courtroom, placed his hand on the Bible, and swore to tell the truth. The truth was all he had left. Martinez began with basic questions. Your name, your occupation, how long you'd worked at Bluebird Diner. Then she moved to the incident. Tell the jury what happened on September 14th. Marcus recounted everything. The approach to the table, Victoria on her phone, the order, the plate of food, her hand gesturing, the tray tilting, the sauce spilling, her scream, her kick, his fall. And after you fell, what did she do? She stood over me and demanded I be fired. Did you touch her at any point before she kicked you? No. Did you throw food at her? No, her hand hit the tray. It was an accident. Martinez played the surveillance video. The jury watched in silence. The footage was clear. Victoria's hand, the tray, the kick, Marcus on the floor. Cross-examination began immediately. Lawrence approached with the confidence of a man who'd never lost. Mr. Hayes, you were a detective with the Houston Police Department, correct? Yes. You know how to make yourself look innocent, don't you? I was innocent. You left the force under suspicious circumstances. Marcus felt his jaw tighten. I left because my wife died. And you were driving the car when she died, weren't you? The courtroom went silent. Martinez stood. Objection. Relevance. Sustained. The judge's voice was sharp. Mr. Ashford, stick to the facts of this case. Lawrence smiled slightly. So you have anger issues, Mr. Hayes? Guilt? Resentment toward wealthy people who have what you lost? I have a daughter I'm trying to protect. From what? From people like your daughter who destroy lives for entertainment. The judge banged his gavel. Mr. Hayes, answer only the questions asked. Lawrence returned to his seat. Marcus stepped down feeling like he'd been in a fight. But when he passed the victim's row, James nodded at him. You did good. The next day brought James Porter to the stand. He testified about the FedEx incident, about Victoria accusing him of inappropriate touching during a package delivery, about losing his job, being blacklisted, working overnight warehouse shifts while his daughter asked why Daddy was never home. Lawrence's cross-examination was brutal. He implied James had a history of complaints. James stayed calm. The only complaint I ever had was from your daughter, and it was a lie. Kevin Tran followed. 22 years old, still home, still carrying the weight of $12,000 in legal debt. He told the jury about the valet incident at River Oaks Country Club, about security footage that showed no damage when he parked the car, about footage from overnight that mysteriously malfunctioned. Who had access to the security office that night? Martinez asked. Club management and VIP members like Victoria Ashford. Lawrence tried to discredit him by pointing out his age, his lack of experience, his immigrant parents. Kevin didn't break. My parents came here with nothing. They taught me to work hard and tell the truth. That's what I'm doing. Day 4 brought Deshaun Williams. He was the prosecution's strongest witness, and everyone knew it. He took the stand looking terrified but determined. Martinez handled him gently. Tell us what happened at the coffee shop. Deshaun recounted the incident. Victoria as a regular customer, her flirtatious behavior, his professional responses. The day she ordered a cappuccino and then accused him of spitting in it. Did you spit in her drink? No, never. I would never. What happened after she accused you? I got fired. The shop owner paid her $25,000 to settle. I signed an NDA for $50,000. But you recorded something that day, didn't you? Deshaun nodded. I was making a TikTok video. My phone was on the counter. The microphone picked up everything. Martinez played the audio. The courtroom heard Victoria's voice, clear and unmistakable. She was laughing with a friend. Watch this, she said. Then she screamed about spit. The jury's faces changed. This wasn't he said, she said anymore. This was premeditation caught on tape. Lawrence's cross was aggressive. You violated your NDA. Yes, you owe $50,000 now. Yes, so you're doing this for money. You want to be paid again. Deshaun's voice cracked, but he kept going. I'm doing this because I can't sleep. Because I have panic attacks when customers complain. Because she took my future and I want to stop her from taking someone else's. The courtroom was silent when he stepped down. Marcus saw 2 jurors wipe their eyes. Rachel Kim testified on day 5. She brought documents, spreadsheets, email chains. She explained Lawrence Ashford's protocol for covering up Victoria's incidents. She showed the jury financial records proving $480,000 in settlements over 4 years. Mr. Ashford had a line item in his budget. Rachel's voice was steady. It was labeled Victoria Incidents. He knew what she was doing. He enabled it. He profited from it by protecting his firm's reputation. Lawrence objected repeatedly. The judge overruled him every time. During cross-examination, Lawrence tried to paint Rachel as a disgruntled employee seeking revenge. You were fired, weren't you? I quit after you were passed over for promotion. After I realized I was helping your daughter destroy innocent people. You stole confidential files. I preserved evidence of crimes. The battle went on for 2 hours. Rachel never wavered. When she stepped down, Lawrence looked older than when the day started. The prosecution rested on day 7. Lawrence began his defense by calling Victoria to the stand. She walked to the witness box in a pale pink dress, her hair down, her eyes red like she'd been crying. It was a performance and Marcus recognized it immediately. Lawrence's direct examination was gentle, paternal. He asked about her childhood, about being bullied at St. Agnes Academy for being new money, about her mother dying when she was 16, about the pressure of being Lawrence Ashford's daughter. Victoria cried on cue. I never meant to hurt anyone. I was scared. These men were intimidating. She recounted her version of each incident. At the diner, Marcus had been hovering, making her uncomfortable. The sauce spill was his fault. She'd pushed him away in self-defense, not kicked him. Lawrence nodded sympathetically throughout. When he finished, Victoria looked like a fragile victim. Some jurors seemed moved. Then Jennifer Martinez stood for cross-examination. Ms. Ashford, you testified that Marcus Hayes threw sauce at you deliberately. Is that correct? Yes. Victoria's voice was soft. Martinez played the video again. Is that what this shows? The angle is misleading. The angle shows your hand hitting the tray. Yes or no? Victoria looked at her father. He couldn't help her now. I don't remember exactly. You don't remember, or you're changing your story. I remember him being aggressive. The video shows no aggression. Martinez's voice was sharp now. You posted on social media that Marcus followed you home. Did he? Victoria hesitated. I thought I saw... Yes or no, Ms. Ashford? No. The word came out barely above a whisper. Marcus felt something release in his chest. First crack. How many people have you falsely accused? Objection! Lawrence was on his feet. Overruled. The judge leaned forward. Answer the question, Ms. Ashford. I haven't falsely accused anyone. Maria Santos, James Porter, Kevin Tran, Deshaun Williams. You lied about all of them, didn't you? Victoria was silent. We have a recording from Sedona, Arizona. Martinez pulled up the video on the courtroom screen. In it, Victoria stood by the pool, surrounded by the four men shouting at them. The courtroom heard her voice. People like you deserve it. Waiters, drivers, valets. You're all the same. Martinez paused the video. What did you mean by that, Ms. Ashford? Victoria's composure shattered. They looked at me like I was trash. Rich trash. I'm tired of being judged, so you punish them? Victoria realized her mistake too late. No, I meant no further questions. Lawrence tried to repair the damage on redirect, but Victoria was done. She kept crying, but these weren't performance tears. These were tears of someone who knew they'd lost. Closing arguments came on day 11. Lawrence spoke for 2 hours. He painted Victoria as a troubled young woman who'd made mistakes but didn't deserve to be crucified. He talked about reasonable doubt, about the pressure of public opinion, about the rush to judgment. Martinez spoke for 45 minutes. She was direct, clinical, devastating. 6 victims, 4 years, $480,000 in cover-up money. This isn't a troubled young woman making mistakes. This is a pattern of predatory behavior enabled by wealth and power. She pointed at Victoria. She weaponized her privilege. She destroyed lives. She thought she'd never face consequences. Give her those consequences now. The jury deliberated for 2 days. Marcus couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. He went to work at the diner, but Phil sent him home after he dropped 2 plates. On the afternoon of the second day, his phone rang. Ryan's voice was tight. Verdict's in. Get to the courthouse. Marcus drove faster than he should have. He ran from the parking garage to the courtroom. The gallery was packed again. He squeezed into his seat just as the judge entered. Has the jury reached a verdict? The foreperson stood. She was the single mother, juror number 4. We have, Your Honor. The clerk took the verdict form and handed it to the judge. He read it without expression and handed it back. On count 1, assault of Marcus Hayes, how do you find? Guilty. Victoria's face went pale. Lawrence reached for her hand. Count 2, assault of James Porter? Guilty. Count 3, assault of Kevin Tran? Guilty. The foreperson continued through all 15 counts. Guilty on 13, not guilty on the 2 witness intimidation charges for lack of evidence. The courtroom erupted. The judge banged his gavel, calling for order. Victoria collapsed in her chair. Lawrence caught her, his face a mask of shock and fury. Marcus felt hands on his shoulders. James, Kevin, Deshaun, all of them standing together. Iris had asked if they'd won. Now he could tell her yes, but winning didn't feel like he'd expected. It felt like exhaustion, like the end of a race he'd never wanted to run. Sentencing came 2 weeks later. The victims gave impact statements. Marcus spoke first. My daughter asked me why bad people have money. I didn't have an answer. But today I can tell her that money doesn't make you untouchable. Truth does, James followed. I want my daughter to know that fighting back matters. Thank you for giving me that. Kevin's voice was firm. I'm going to be a defense attorney to protect people like us. Victoria Ashford taught me why that matters. Deshaun was last. I can sleep now. That's all I wanted. Justice gives you peace. Victoria's statement was brief. She stood with her lawyer's hand on her shoulder. I'm sorry. I don't expect forgiveness. I'm sorry. Marcus didn't believe her. She wasn't sorry for what she'd done. She was sorry she'd been caught. Judge Ramirez removed his glasses and looked directly at Victoria. Ms. Ashford, you have caused immeasurable harm. You exploited a system meant to protect victims. You turned justice into a weapon. Your actions have made it harder for real victims to be believed. This court finds that especially heinous, he announced the sentence. 18 months in county jail, suspended to 8 months with 3 years supervised probation. 800 hours of community service at a women's shelter. $240,000 in restitution to the 6 victims, $40,000 each. Mandatory psychological treatment. 5-year ban on social media. Victoria was led away. Lawrence Ashford sat alone at the defense table, his empire crumbling around him. The aftermath came quickly. The Texas bar opened an investigation into Lawrence's conduct. Rachel's testimony about his protocol for covering up Victoria's crimes led to findings of professional misconduct and obstruction of justice. He was suspended from practicing law for 2 years, fined $50,000, and required to complete ethics courses. Ashford and Associates lost its major clients within weeks. The firm that had once been feared throughout Houston was forced to close. Lawrence took a consulting position with a smaller firm at a fraction of his former salary. His daughter was in jail. His career was destroyed. His reputation was ashes. Marcus felt no satisfaction in it, just a sense that the universe had finally balanced its books. Ryan's internal affairs hearing happened a week after sentencing. The department cleared him of all charges. He was promoted to sergeant and given command of the new false accusation task force. His first act was to hire Rachel Kim as civilian coordinator. Emily Vasquez won a Pulitzer Prize for her investigative series on Victoria Ashford. In her acceptance speech, she said the story wasn't about her. It was about Marcus Hayes, James Porter, Kevin Tran, and Deshaun Williams, men who refused to stay silent. The GoFundMe for the victims reached $90,000. Marcus used his share to set up Iris's college fund. James bought his daughter the birthday present he'd had to skip 2 years ago. Kevin paid off his legal debt and enrolled in law school. Deshaun used his money to keep Second Chance's Cafe running through the first difficult year. 6 months after the trial, Marcus was working the lunch shift at Bluebird when a woman walked in. She was elegant, nervous, scanning the room like she was looking for something specific. He approached with a menu. Table for one? She looked up at him and he saw the recognition in her eyes. Actually, I was looking for you. Do I know you? No, but I know who you are, she paused. I'm Maria Santos. Marcus's heart stopped. The first victim. The one who'd been deported to El Salvador. The one they couldn't get to testify because she couldn't afford to come back. I came back. Maria's voice was soft. I saw the trial. I saw what you did. And I wanted to thank you. You don't have to. Yes, I do. You fought when I couldn't. You gave me hope that maybe I can rebuild here. Would you like some coffee? She smiled. I'd like that. They sat in a booth and talked for an hour. Maria told him about her years in El Salvador, working in a factory, saving money, applying for a visa to return, about watching the trial coverage on her phone, about crying when the verdict came through. Is it hard, coming back here? She gestured at the diner. Sometimes, but this is where it happened, and I refuse to let her take this from me. Maria nodded like she understood completely. I'm scared to work again, scared of being accused again. Me too, every day, but we can't let fear win. They exchanged phone numbers. Maria said she'd found a job at a hotel downtown, housekeeping again, but with a company that promised fair treatment. Marcus told her to call if she ever needed help. After she left, Phil came over. Friend of yours? Sort of. Marcus wiped down the table where they'd sat. Someone who understands. That evening, Marcus picked up Iris from Mrs. Chen's apartment. The old woman pulled him aside while Iris gathered her backpack. You're doing better. I can see it in your eyes. Yeah, I think I am. And Iris? She's strong, like her mother. At home, Marcus made spaghetti while Iris did homework at the kitchen table. She was working on a writing assignment about heroes. "Who's your hero, baby bird?" She looked up from her paper. "You are, Daddy." He felt his throat tighten. "Why? Because you stop mean people, and because you take care of me." He walked over and kissed the top of her head. "You make it easy." After dinner, after homework, after her bath, Marcus tucked Iris into bed. She was getting too old for bedtime stories, but he read to her anyway. Tonight it was Charlotte's Web, a book Sarah had loved. When he finished the chapter, Iris looked up at him. "Daddy, did we win? Against the mean lady?" "Yeah, we won." "Good." She yawned. "Do you think Mommy would be proud?" Marcus felt the familiar ache in his chest, but it was softer now. "Yeah, baby, I think she would. Because birds still fly, right?" He remembered the day of Sarah's funeral, the balloons they'd released, the promise he'd made. Right, birds still fly. He turned off the light and walked to the living room. His phone buzzed with a text from Ryan. "Another case tomorrow. You in?" Marcus typed back, "Always." He poured a glass of water and stood at the window. Houston spread out below, lights stretching to the horizon. 3 years ago, he'd been a ghost. Invisible. Broken. Grieving. He'd thought he'd lost everything. Victoria Ashford had kicked him, humiliated him, tried to destroy him, but she'd also given him something unexpected. Purpose. A reason to stop hiding, a chance to be someone his daughter could be proud of. He wasn't just a waiter anymore. He was proof that the system could work if you fought hard enough. That power could be challenged. That sometimes the people society overlooked had more courage than anyone expected. He looked at the photo on the mantel. Sarah, Marcus, and baby Iris. 3 people who'd once been whole, now just 2. But they were surviving. More than surviving. They were flying. "We flew, Sarah, like you said we would." His phone buzzed again. This time it was an email from a woman in Dallas. Her son had been falsely accused by a wealthy classmate's parent. She'd read about Marcus. She wanted help. Marcus opened his laptop and started typing a response. This was his life now, working at the diner during the day, helping victims at night, being a father always. It wasn't the life he'd planned, but it was the life he'd earned, and that made it worth something. The next morning, Marcus woke to his alarm at 5:15. He made oatmeal for Iris, walked her to Mrs. Chen's, and drove to work. Phil had the coffee brewing when he arrived. "Morning, Marcus." "Morning." The regulars came in. Frank ordered his black coffee with extra cream. Mrs. Rodriguez wanted egg whites and wheat toast. Tommy from the construction crew asked for whatever was hot. Marcus moved through his routine with the efficiency of long practice. Refill before they ask, clear plates quickly, smile when necessary, stay present without being intrusive. At 11:30, the lunch crowd started arriving. Marcus was refilling water glasses when Phil called him to the counter. "Someone asking for you, booth 12. Marcus looked over. A man in a suit sat alone, nervous, fidgeting with his phone. Marcus walked over. "Can I help you?" The man looked up. "Are you Marcus Hayes?" "Yeah, I'm David Chen. No relation to your detective friend. I work at a law firm downtown. One of the paralegals accused me of harassment. It's not true. I saw what you did with Victoria Ashford. I need help." Marcus set down his order pad and sat across from him. "Tell me what happened." David Chen poured out his story. A paralegal who'd made advances he'd rejected. A false complaint filed with HR. A career hanging in the balance. It was a different pattern, but the same disease. Someone weaponizing accusations to gain power. "Have you talked to the police?" "They said it's an HR matter. The firm's handling it internally, which means they'll protect their liability, not your truth." Marcus pulled out his phone. "I know someone who can help. Detective Ryan Chen. He runs a task force for this exact thing." "You'd do that? For a stranger?" Marcus thought about the alley behind this diner 7 months ago. About sitting there with $43 and no hope. About all the people who'd helped him when they didn't have to. Nobody should fight this alone. He called Ryan right there. Ryan said he'd meet David at the station that afternoon. Marcus gave David his number and told him to call if he needed anything else. After David left, Phil came over. "You becoming some kind of vigilante?" "Not vigilante." Marcus picked up his order pad. Just someone who remembers what it's like to be powerless. The shift ended at 4. Marcus drove home and found Iris at the kitchen table with her drawing supplies spread out. She was working on something large, using multiple sheets of paper taped together. "What are you making?" "A mural for my classroom. Miss Patterson said we could draw our families." "Can I see?" "Not yet. It's a surprise." He made dinner while she worked, chicken and rice, nothing fancy but healthy and filling. They ate together at the small table, talking about her day. She'd gotten 100 on her spelling test. Her best friend Emma had shared her cookies at lunch. These were the moments that mattered, not courtrooms or verdicts or news coverage. Just a father and daughter sharing a meal in their small apartment while Houston hummed outside. After dinner, Marcus's phone rang. "Unknown number," he answered carefully. "Mr. Hayes, this is Patricia Nguyen from the hotel. You helped me a few months ago." "I remember. Everything okay?" "More than okay. I got promoted. Assistant manager. And I wanted to thank you. If you hadn't come that day, I would have lost my job. I'm glad it worked out. But that's not why I'm calling." Patricia's voice became more serious. "There's another girl, new hire. A guest accused her of stealing. I think it's the same thing. Someone trying to get her fired because she wouldn't give them special treatment." "Did she do it?" "I've known this girl 2 months. She's honest, hardworking. She would never." Marcus pulled out his notebook. "Tell me everything." He spent the next hour on the phone, taking notes, asking questions, developing a plan. By the time he hung up, he had a clearer picture of what needed to happen. He'd call Ryan in the morning. They'd review the hotel's security footage. They'd interview the guest. They'd stop this before it became another destroyed life. Iris had finished her drawing. She brought it to him with pride in her eyes. "You can look now." He unfolded the sheets. The mural showed Bluebird Diner with 5 figures standing in front of it. Marcus in his waiter uniform. James, Kevin, Deshawn, and in the sky above them, 4 birds flying together. She'd labeled each bird, Daddy, James, Kevin, Deshawn. But there was a 5th figure in the drawing, a woman with long hair standing beside Marcus, her hand on his shoulder. She was drawn in lighter colors, almost translucent. "Is that Mommy?" Iris nodded. "Miss Patterson said we should draw everyone important to us. Mommy's important even though she's not here anymore." Marcus felt tears sting his eyes. "It's beautiful, sweetheart. Do you think she's proud of us?" He pulled Iris close. "I know she is." That night, after Iris was asleep, Marcus sat on the couch with his old detective notebook. He'd started keeping track again. David Chen from today, Patricia's coworker at the hotel, 3 other people who'd reached out this week asking for help or advice. He couldn't save everyone, but he could try to stop the pattern from repeating. One case at a time, one victim at a time, one conversation at a time. His phone buzzed. Ryan again. "Forgot to tell you, department wants to give you a civilian commendation for your work on the Ashford case. I don't need recognition. Take it anyway. Let people see that victims can win. It matters." Marcus agreed reluctantly. The ceremony was scheduled for next month. He'd have to wear a suit. Iris would love that. He opened his laptop and checked his email. The woman from Dallas had written back, grateful for his advice. A man from San Antonio wanted to know if the task force could help with his case. A journalist from Austin wanted to interview him about false accusations in the service industry. The fight wasn't over. It would never be over. But it was winnable. That was the difference now. People like Victoria Ashford could still cause damage. But they couldn't do it unchecked anymore. Marcus closed his laptop and walked to the window. The city lights reflected off low clouds. Somewhere out there, someone was probably being falsely accused right now. Someone was losing their job, their reputation, their hope. But somewhere else, someone who'd been through it was helping someone else survive it. James mentoring single fathers, Kevin studying law to defend the defenseless, Deshawn giving second chances at his cafe, Rachel advocating for victims at the DA's office, Ryan investigating wealth-enabled abuse of power. They were all birds flying together now, and as long as they kept flying, others could follow. Marcus went to bed feeling something he hadn't felt in 4 years. Not happiness exactly, not peace, but something close. Acceptance of Sarah's death, of his new life, of who he'd become in the aftermath of tragedy. He'd been a detective once, then a waiter, then a victim. Now he was something else. A fighter, an advocate, a symbol. A man who'd been kicked to the floor and gotten back up and refused to let others stay down. The apartment was quiet except for the distant sound of traffic. Iris's breathing was steady in the next room. The heater worked now, the rent was paid, the refrigerator had food. These simple things that he'd almost lost. Tomorrow he'd wake at 5:15, make oatmeal, walk Iris to Mrs. Chen's, work his shift at the diner, answer calls from people who needed help, come home and make dinner, read to his daughter, go to bed and do it all again. It wasn't a glamorous life, but it was his, earned through pain and rebuilt with purpose. And every morning when he looked at Iris's drawing on the refrigerator, he'd remember that the smallest people could have the biggest courage, that broken things could be rebuilt stronger, that ghosts could learn to be solid again. Birds still fly, Sarah had said. She'd been right, even when the storm tried to ground them, even when the world pushed back, even when everything seemed impossible. They kept flying, and as long as Marcus Hayes had breath in his lungs and his daughter waiting at home, he'd keep flying too.